Bucs' first day of training camp is in the books. I'm not sure we learned anything when they're in shorts and T-shirts, but I will say this. It's nice to see Antoine Winfield Jr. become Antoine Winfield Jr. again. This dude, he did this, this is his thing, right? You see him make all these plays 2 years ago before he got hurt, had the foot injury in week 1, then he had a knee injury later in the season, only played 9 games. You forget. You tend to forget in such a short time about how dominant a player he was. I mean, he was an all-pro, right, in 2023. He was rewarded for that with the richest contract of any defensive back. Forget about safety. And he made damn near every play. He would blitz. He would get sacks. I think he had, 5 or 6 or 7 sacks. He had interceptions. He had game-changing hustle plays where he knocked the ball out of the ball carrier's hands on the end zone. He did all these things, and you're just like, how does one guy keep making all these ridiculous plays? And they said, well, because that's what he does in practice. Now, during the season, we don't get to see this part, right? Because when we're at practice, we get to see stretching, some special teams, and then they take us off the field. Well, the great thing about training camp is you get to watch all of practice. And Antoine Winfield Jr., man, was just wrecking it. He was just wrecking it. And he had 2 interceptions on back-to-back plays, one that would have been a pick 6. And, man, that's my biggest takeaway if you're a Bucs fan. And again, shorts, non-contact, first practice, guys trying stuff, Baker really not caring whether he throws a pick or not necessarily. And yet he really showed up. And the defense won the day for what it's worth, which is not unexpected when you can't, or when you're not in pads, the offensive line can't do anything but try to catch guys. But football is back. And it's a good thing, too, because the Rays are pretty much done. As they're getting boat raced by the White Sox when they had what was the lead? 6-4 at one point? 4-0.
4-0.
6-4, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Then it was 7-5.
7-5. Taj Bradley, couldn't hold anything down.
Yeah, nor could Kevin Kelly.
Or Kevin Kelly, who, may have gotten one batter out. He's awful. God awful. They're just serving it up, man. It's like, hey, remember when the bullpen was really bad 5 minutes ago? Yeah, it's still bad 5 minutes later. It's just, oh, God. How do you lose 2 or 3 from a White Sox team that is literally one of the worst in baseball, if not the worst?
Well, the Rays last year got swept by the White Sox, and they were the worst team ever.
Yeah,
until the Athletics this year, but
yeah,
or the Rockies this year. No, it's not. It's the Rockies this year that's really bad.
They like to punch down, man. They like to punch down to these bad teams, and they have a better record against teams with over 500 than they do below. It's just crazy. So I don't feel good about the Rays. We'll get more into that in a minute. Let's get back to the Bucs for a second. I thought it was interesting. It was just the first day, and we had a chance to sit down and talk with Lavonte David, who's always a good, pretty good, insightful interview. And Lavonte was held out of all the offseason work, and all of the OTAs and mini camps and things like that. He attended, but he didn't really practice. And that's because he's 35 years old. He's in his 14th season, which is remarkable how fast it seems to have gone. But now he's back in action. Now he's back on the field with his guys. He's, running around with the first team, doing all those things that he needs to do. And he talked about just how, on the outside looking in, you feel when you don't do much in the offseason. This has kind of been his routine for a couple of years. But I asked him point blank, I just said, do you come back, right? After all you've accomplished, 35 years old, I said, do you even come back if you didn't think this team has a legit, and I mean, not just everybody said, every team says our goal is to win the Super Bowl, and it is, and it should be. But only a few can actually do it, right? There's maybe a handful, maybe 7 teams that you could say, okay, one of these legit can win the Super Bowl. And, the thing about Lavonte was, he said, if he didn't think that they were going to win it, he said, I probably wouldn't have come back. That's sort of like how confident he is. Now, he also made it clear that, at 35, 14 seasons in, he goes, it's because I love the game. I mean, he does truly love football and, embraces all the aspects of it. mean, he said that, where he learned from Derek Brooks and others was that, when it gets really tough out there, the harder it gets, the more you have to kind of embrace it, and he's always done that. After 3 days in pads, you're sore, no one feels good, it's hot. And he goes, those are the days I elevate and try to elevate others and grind through it. But you could see the confidence in Lavonte, in what he thinks they have back. And do I believe it? Yeah, I kind of do. He doesn't need to play for the money. These stats that he piles up this year might help him towards a Hall of Fame argument, which is going to be a long shot at best. Not that he doesn't deserve it. It's just the way that room is. So there's reasons for him
win
to
a Super
play.
Bowl, it elevates it.
I think so. That's what I was going to say. I think if you're a 2-time Super Bowl champion and you're the kind of piece that he is on both defenses, remember Super Bowl 55, Patrick Mahomes didn't see the end zone. Did not see the end zone. They held him to without a touchdown. So, you come back a few years later, if you were to win one, I think people have to look at you in an entirely different light because you've been the centerpiece of that defense for years and years. And maybe that's what he's thinking. I know the Hall of Fame is important to him. It's not a slam dunk, no matter what happens to him this year. But he does have an opportunity to pad the resume, and nothing like a championship to do that. So that might be why he's back. But I don't think, and I kind of believe him too, because he's made plenty of money. He has a baby girl. He wants to be more of a family man. This has always been a sacrifice each year when I sit down with him, just about how much he misses and that sort of thing. But I legit don't think he needs to play, not financially. Maybe, like I said, another year kind of nudges him towards the Hall. But at the end of the day, I think Lavonte sees what a lot of people sees, and that is a team that can compete and compete for an NFC title. They're that good now. Were they that good first day out? Not necessarily, especially on offense. But I'll tell you what popped for me right away, and he kind of dominated the practice was, last year we only saw Antoine Winfield Jr. play 9 games. He had the foot injury in week 1 against Washington. Then he later had, I think, a knee injury during the season. That's why he missed like half the season. Man, again, shorts and T-shirts, as Todd Bowles would say, he dominated the last period of practice. He had back-to-back interceptions, and one would have been returned for a pick 6. And I've always heard sort of how Lavonte, he doesn't, or not, Winfield, he doesn't practice every day, And I've asked Winfield, well, how do you make these plays and big splash plays? Like he goes, well, it starts because I make them out there. You don't get to see it, but I make them out there in practice, and it just kind of carries over. And by God, he does, And he stole a couple or one from Baker Mayfield, maybe one from another quarterback. Defense had a nice day, and you can't pass protect that well, obviously, because you're not in pads, so it's kind of a wash for the offensive lineman. But it was impressive.
Well, and he's going to have to be this year.
Yeah,
and we've talked about this. Like, there's not many guys from the back end that can control a game defensively.
Yeah, that's right.
Antoine Winfield Jr. has been one. His dad was one.
You saw him play in Minnesota, yeah.
And I loved going to the games to see him play because you don't always see it on TV.
Right.
But how much his dad would change the game. And he was fantastic at knowing when to come off his guy to go attack somewhere else.
That's what he did in this practice. He was kind of hanging around, laying in the weeds a little bit, and then just jumped it. You know what I mean? And he guessed right. And he stole passes away from people that he really wasn't covering.
Yeah, his dad was that way as a cornerback. It was a little different. It played a little
harder to do it that way. Yeah,
right. But you're covering a deep route. You see the throws going short. He would be the fastest guy to break off and go jump that route.
Right.
And
right.
He was fantastic at it.
Right.
And the quarterback always had to be aware of him, and it changed the way you attack the defense. Winfield Jr. as a safety is the exact same way. Like, you know exactly where he is on the field at all times, and if you don't, you're dead.
Yeah, and they had so much trouble over the middle of the field. Some of that's the linebackers, especially Lavonte, was attacked last year in the passing game, and his numbers are bad. They didn't get from Jordan Whitehead what they needed. Like Todd Bowles before last season told me he felt relieved because he had Jordan back and that it was like having now two quarterbacks back there that can get things lined up, but it just didn't work. Obviously Keith Smith will have a learning curve, going to back end there at safety, but I think he'll be fine. Get to play 25% more of the snaps. But man, when you got an all pro at this early age that's capable of doing what Winfield Jr. has done, that's going to make your pass rush better. If your pass rush is good, it's going to make Winfield better. He plays at all three levels of the defense. It was just fun, and maybe he doesn't make another play, the rest of training camp. I really don't know. I suspect he will, but it was exactly what he has always done, which is make these plays in practice and then it translate over to the game. So that was good. There's some interesting things going on with respect to kind of the guys that are sitting out right now, in particular Desmond Watson, which I don't think it's a secret, but I didn't know you could do this. So Desmond Watson, who's at one point the 460-pound defensive tackle from Florida in Armwood High School, he signed with the Bucs, and the goal was to make him healthier, get him down in weight, whatever. Well, they put him on a non-football illness list. It wasn't ill per se, unless you count obesity maybe as an illness, but basically when practice started, he was down on a far field, running and sweating very much with a trainer. So I don't know how ill he would have been. And then Todd Bowles kind of let it out and said, we really are going to take it easy. We got an idea where we want Des to be. He knows what he has to do. They won't tell us the weight or anything like that. But they acknowledge that they want to protect this guy. They want this guy to get in the best shape he possibly can. And I don't know if it'll be by the end of this training camp or the end of the week. I really don't know. But it's clear that, he's got a big hurdle, and he's a big man, and you worry like it wasn't as hot out there really Wednesday that it's going to be. There's some cloud cover, especially in the morning for most of the day. But then the sun moved, and it's a clam bake out there. You got to be careful if you're 450 plus pounds to navigate that stuff. And he has played in Florida, like I said, but it's just different speed, different techniques, all of that.
Well, we've seen Kalijah Cansey having issues, and he's a lot less. He weighs a lot less. I mean, he's heavy, but
but 2 years in a row, he ripped his calf up because of soft tissue injury and dehydration.
Yeah, how hot it is here and the humidity, and it's different. Now, Desmond played at Florida, so it's not like he's not familiar with Florida.
No, and that's what Todd Bowles said. But we don't know how they practiced up there necessarily. And in any case, if the guy's going really, really hard to make an NFL team, you might do something out of the box and, take that extra rep and not get as much rest as he needs between snaps. And I don't know, but you don't want that situation for him. So, he's kind of, it's weird because I don't believe he's getting paid either. When you're on the non-football anything, it typically absolves the organization for paying your salary. So that ain't good, right? But this is the project they took on when the Bucs decided to, sign him as an undrafted free agent, and kind of the way you go. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how long it takes him to get back kind of on the field.
There was a famous visitor at practice today.
Boy, there was. Prime time. Looked out there, saw a man with a white long sleeve shirt. Turned out to be a Buffalo's shirt. And he was standing there talking to Todd Bowles with his arms folded, and running around in front of him was one Shiloh Sanders. So, yeah, it was cool. Deion Sanders made his appearance. We didn't get to talk to him. He's not necessarily been, seeking the media out these days. Couple observations. One, it's clear that he's struggling with whatever health issues he may or may not have, including, I guess, a partial amputation of his foot. It was sad, though, like watching him just kind of, move around like an 80-year-old man. I thought, wow, this was arguably the best or next to best athlete of my generation. You know, what couldn't Deion Sanders do? Right? It was like what Bo knows, you know, kind of thing. Bo Jackson.
I was going to say Bo would probably be the best one, and then Deion maybe next.
But Deion was right there. I mean, you know, just to do what he did with baseball and football, to hit the ball the way he did, and what a great athlete he was. But you know, man, it's tough to see, you know, sort of what he's going, whatever it is he's going through. And again, he didn't complain; he was out there smiling or whatever. But Shiloh Sanders not getting a lot of reps, about third team, if you will, at this point. And while we're watching, by the way, the bad may have just gotten worse because Yandy Diaz got hit in the fingers.
Yep.
While he was at bat. So, you know, yeah, cool to see the coach out there. I like Shiloh. It's going to come down to special teams. Can he cover on kicks? Can he give them something they don't already have in some of these receivers? Because they're obviously going to want to keep some of the receivers if they can. They have a logjam there. You know, all those guys look pretty good. There was some good throws and catches to Mike Evans, to Becca, Abuga. There was, you know, Jalen McMillan we got to talk to after practice. He's beefed himself up a little bit, added some significant weight. So he looks strong again. So for the first day, you know, it's about what you'd expect. And this is country club football. There's no pads. They're out there in shorts and T-shirts. You know, it's no fans were there, at least on Wednesday. I'm sure they'll be out today for sure, and maybe the rest of the week. But it was kind of surreal, you know, in there practicing with the stands up and no fans and just a smattering of people around. But training camp is here, thank God. And also, training camp is here. It's so hot, man. I'm telling you, we had the best day though. It was breezy. There was cloud cover right up until about 10 o'clock. You know,
and say, you used to cover 3 a days. Whether you're complaining about today?
I'm soft because I'm soft. I'm soft, Steve. I just can't walk on the sun anymore. The great thing is, without fans, they have the canopied stands and stuff like that. I could just haul up in there and take a seat, and you know, maybe 5 yards behind the dude that's standing in the sun in front of me, which I never got. Like, why wouldn't you just back up 3 feet and not get tortured? But that's kind of what I do. It's survival out here. You know, you just got to find a way to survive. But it was cool. It was a cooler day until it wasn't, which was probably around noon when we were wrapping up. Today, we're going to have a chance to talk to some players, obviously, and that includes Charlie Heck, who's a big player on this team. We're going to start at left tackle, at least trying to win that job with Tristan Wirfs out. He's going to have competition there before it's all said and done. And I think that Josh Grizzard's going to have to do things to help him. You know, it's just part of the deal, right? You gotta hide your weaknesses and accentuate your strengths. And right now, going into this 2025 season, the left tackle position is a weakness. Now, maybe he can play well enough to make people, you know, forget about it. But I'm not sure how that's going to go just yet. And offensive coordinator's not sure, and you know, and all of that. So we'll have to see if he holds up. And they're working out veterans, which is a tell too, right? Like, you still need another tackle that can play some multiple sides if Heck were to get hurt. But I think, you know, they've got to couch their bets. You know, I don't know much about Charlie. He's played some football. I don't think the Niners or anybody else would just let him hit the streets if they didn't have big plans for him or didn't think that he earned a chance to compete for a starting job. So I don't know what we're looking at here, but we're going to find out, you know, pretty soon. All right, we'll talk about the Rays, who had a lead, lost the league, had a lead, and we're trying to battle back as we do this podcast. But first, get on down to Breitling Boutique. I've told you they're in International Plaza Mall. What's taking so long to get there? You walk into the mall, go to the center, and then upstairs, second floor, you're going to run right into Breitling Boutique. They've been making the best Swiss watches now for over 140 years. They've been in International Plaza Mall for the last 5, and they've been celebrating the NFL's 104th year anniversary. They have Chronomat watches for men. These are team watches with the team colors and the logo inside, and this is important while supplies last, because they're going fast, folks. Go to tampabay.com, likely to see the Bucs hat. And also, get on down there and take a look at the women's watches for your wife, for your girlfriend. We're talking about beautiful sports watches that are durable, and they come in an array of different colored wristbands. You're going to love this store. It's Breitling Boutique, great customer service. They're going to pour you a drink, tell you about the greatest timepiece you're ever going to own, as a matter of fact. Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. Make sure when you go, you tell them that you heard about it right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. I'm not sure where this Rays game is going to end up. It's always fun when we're like calling the game, but people that are listening to our podcast actually know what happened. I say, sorry, I'm distracted easily. I'll just, you can't lose to these guys, right? Like you can't lose a series to the White Sox at home.
Well, they've clawed back to 11-8, bases loaded, 1 out.
They need Junior Caminero to come out as we speak. Of course, all you people probably know the result of that, but nonetheless, this might not be a bad guy to have arguing balls and strikes right now. But
although he could hit into a double play and end the inning. So
well, and that's what he does too. Yeah, you'd rather him strike out than do that. But yeah, it's hit too softly to turn it, I think. He's safe at first. Okay, there you go. Another run scores. It's a 2-run game.
Well, so you're telling me there's a chance.
It's better than it's better than what it could have been here in the bottom of the 8th. They still got 1 out to play with.
Yep.
Yeah, I buried the Rays a little bit last night. I'm really burying them if they lose a series. I just don't see how it's going to work out. And now you said there's a team, like you said, that's going to creep ahead of them.
Well, the Rangers, if the Rays go on to lose this game, and we might know the result by the time we're done, but and the Rangers win, they're now tied. The Rangers have clawed back and are above 500 now and will have tied the Rays.
What would the standings have to say if you're the Rays before you would say, screw it, we're going to build for the future? We're not saying we're going to lose now necessarily. We don't want to lose, but we recognize we have some, valuable assets and we can get some big stuff back.
I don't
do that.
Look, you're not going to see them tear it down. That's not what the Rays are. They're too good of it. They're not going to go into full rebuild mode. Would they trade a Littell? Would they trade a Brendan Lau, a Yandy Diaz, a Caballero to try to get some pieces for this year and the next 2 or 3 years? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Try to build on the fly and still give yourself a chance this year, but improving your chances for maybe next year and the year after. The Rays are very good at that.
Mm-hmm.
You could trade Littell and put Joe Boyle in the rotation. And you're still hoping at some point McClanahan comes back, but who knows? That one.
Yeah, that one didn't sound good.
That injury alone may impact what you do. Because all along you've been expecting to get him back for the second half of the year.
Right.
And that was one of your trade deadline acquisitions. Hassan Kim, another one who's hurt and not playing. Now he's not on the IL, so. And even the outfielder
Lau was always one of those guys, right?
Even the outfielder you just traded cash considerations for, you had to put on the IL.
That's right. Yeah, he lasted all of one day. It's like, what are you guys drinking in this clubhouse?
He said he was fine when he got traded here, then was swinging on the field the other day and felt something, and now he's on the IL.
You know what he felt? That was dehydration, and that's why he's cramped up. I'm telling you, man. Welcome to Florida, dude. It's not easy. It's not easy. I don't know. The Rays have so many good things, the Junior Camineros and some of the stuff that's going on, and then they struggle against these bad teams. It just makes no sense.
Well, it's the pitching of late that's just been like Taj Bradley was phenomenal last start. Then he gets a 4-run lead and gives it right back up in the second inning.
I don't even get that. And he lost the command totally of the strike zone. He couldn't get the ball literally over the plate. You could see him aiming it. He's falling off the mound. His mechanics suck. He's got great stuff. I mean, he throws 98. I'm sorry, if I threw 98, holy cow, I don't think I'd even learn a secondary pitch. Like you're virtually a human strikeout walking down the street. You can make big money challenging people, but I don't know, man.
And then Kevin Kelly couldn't find the strike zone either.
No, he's terrible. At least he was tonight.
That's now given up runs in 4 of his last 7 appearances.
I don't know. Hey, you bring him back out there. I thought they left him way too soon. I mean, Cash comes and gets him. I know he's trying to preserve his bullpen a little bit. They have They got an off day tomorrow, maybe, I believe.
Yes, they do. Yep. And then they travel into Cincinnati tomorrow for the weekend series, and then they're in New York against the Yankees.
Yeah, I mean,
19
tough series.
of the next 22 on the road.
Wow. So what would be a respectable record legitimately? Like, you think they can achieve? Is it 11-11? Like, what is it?
I think you'd be okay with 11-11. I think you'd like to go 13-9.
Yeah.
And preferably win at least 2 of the 3 at home against the Dodgers.
Right.
If you win 2 of the 3, that means you need to go 11-8.
Right.
I mean, and the hard part is your road trip Cincinnati and New York. Cincinnati's been playing well of late, and New York's ahead of you in the standings.
Yeah.
And then after the Dodgers home series, then you're on the road in the West Coast for 2 weeks.
Yeah, so it's not like even the 3-game or 4-game respite is against one of the best teams in the majors, and certainly the biggest payroll and Shohei and all that, which would be fun for fans to come out and see him play. But it's not an easy lift. And then you're right back out, not just on the road, but on the West Coast, which is an extra negative because you're changing time zones, and you have more good ball clubs out that way. It's tough, man. Like, baseball is tough. You think you know and you don't know. I mean, they're close. Like, they're very close. They have such great, pieces, I guess you would say. One of my favorite players to watch is Chandler Simpson. I mean, that guy's unreal. He's unreal what he's able to deliver with the stolen bases and making contact and things like that. The outfield play has gotten better. I mean, they've got some really good players. So Chandler not making a diving catch as we speak. But yeah, it's a really good team. It's an entertaining team, but at the end of the day, they just don't have all their pieces firing when they need them to, and that has to also to do with the pitching staff, not just the lack of scoring runs. So,
well, for instance, right now they're down 11-9. 9 runs should win a game.
Absolutely, it should.
With the Rays pitching staff.
Oh yeah, come on! You're built on pitching and defense. You remember when it would be like a week they wouldn't score 9 games or 9 runs?
Oh yeah.
You'd go a whole week and wouldn't get that. And now we have a bad throw at first base on a relay for a double play, but nobody scores. Yeah, it's been tough, and they kind of got themselves in a funny position where, the pressure now is going to mount because they don't have time. They're going to run out of games. You can't fall behind and have enough time left to catch up. So it's going to catch up with them pretty soon.
Well, look, the trade deadline's a week from today.
Right.
We're going to know a lot more about this team next Thursday based on what they do on this road trip in Cincinnati, New York, and then what moves Eric Neander makes.
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
Does he, there's talk they're looking for a reliever. I hope they're looking for a right-handed bat as well.
Right.
But what pieces do they give up to get those pieces? That's going to determine a lot.
Can you trade a guy on the IL if you wanted to get rid of Brandon Lau?
You can, yeah.
That would be one that I would think might be vulnerable.
I don't know if he's worth a little less because I don't, when do you expect him back? Impacts things.
Right. Well, like we said the other day, they did their job. They made it to football. So, I mean, I'm tired of talking about it. It's such a long season. Yep. I've been with them really since the opening day, and it's kind of like nothing's really changed. They're kind of good. They're not great. They've been hurt a few times. They've been burned a couple of others. You care, but we still got a long way to go before we get to October.
Yeah, the Rangers won.
Part of it.
Rangers won. They've won 8 of 10.
Woo, man.
And so if the Rays lose this game, which they're down 11-9 in the 9th, as we're recording.
Right.
And the Rays are now tied with the Rangers for the first team out of the wild card.
Oh my goodness.
They're in Boston was in extra innings last I saw. Red Sox won, so you'd be a game and a half back with the last
game and a half back. Wow. Yeah. Well, as Yogi Berra used to say, it's getting late early. You're going to have to straighten this up somehow, and you're going to have to do it and galvanize yourselves and do it on the road. So that's where they're at. I'll be at $1 Place again bright and early this morning. The good news, the double-edged sword, like the practice starts at, I don't know, about 8:30, and they only went to about 10:15, which is like, again, kind of a country club compared to what it used to be. But I do think it's going to get hotter and maybe rainier at times. And we had a really nice, pleasant day. And now the fans are going to start coming, which adds another element. And, then eventually it'll be, before they play a preseason game, Tennessee Titans for one practice. Before they play a game at Pittsburgh, it'll be the Steelers for one practice. And that's kind of how things are moving along, when you start seeing other teams, kind of scrimmaging with you and whatnot. So that'll be something to look forward to. Breaks up the monotony of camp too, So I thought that was interesting. The one thing, like going back to camp, the one thing Lavonte said, just to wrap it up, about his career and whatever, is that he loves football so much. He's loved this game since he was eight years old, and in the Miami area and whatnot. And he didn't want to address it, but he all but, in my mind at least, confirmed to me that this will be his last year. I think he came very close to not playing this year, had it not been for the fact that he played so well, right? He had 122 tackles, 5.5 sacks, interception, because he had such a good year, and because of the way the season ended, one step further back than they got a year ago. Both sides of the ball kicked themselves for losing to that Washington team, which I still think they were better than. And we saw what the Commanders were able to do and go all the way to the NFC Championship against Philadelphia. This team might have matched up okay with them, but the defense wasn't that great. We talked about the holes they had at inside linebacker. Corners weren't good. So there's a lot of reasons why they couldn't get off the field against Washington. But I think Lavonte, win or lose, probably feels like this is the best chance right here. I played a long time. I'm 35. If we don't get it done now, I'm just going to not even entertain trying to come back and, chase it at age, 36. I mean, guys don't play the 30. Derek Brooks played until he was 35 and could have gotten another job with the Saints or something, but decided it wasn't worth it to him. I think Lavonte is there. I really do. I think he's there. And I just think that the combination of him playing well and knowing what they have coming back, that he really does, feel like this is their year. And that's what Todd Bowles' sort of message was, just to wrap it up, was like, again, to for Bowles to stand up there. Every team says we got to, go on and win the Super Bowl. But, Bowles was kind of adamant about, like, we don't want to be one of the teams that could win it, Like everybody says, oh yeah, the Bucs, are a pretty good team. Look out for the Bucs, a pretty good team. They could make some noise. He goes, we don't want to be one of the teams. We want to be the elite team. We want to be the team that people are chasing, right? We don't want to start 3-1 and lose a bunch of games and have to fight our asses off the last month to make the playoffs. We want to run away from these people. We want to win every game, and we want to, feel like we're a team that can accomplish that, and people have to chase us. And that's a pretty interesting message. It's a little arrogant, quite frankly. But it is the mentality and the approach that the Bucs players and their coaches are taking, is like, we're going to make noise. We're going to do it fast, and we're going to show you how many wins we can rack up, and we're going to have people worried about us. And that's different than just, what they've been, over the last couple of years. All right, make sure you get on down to Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. Check out the Navitimers, the Chronomats, all the NFL team watches that they have in store for you. Also, ladies' watches for your wife, your girlfriend. These are sports watches, very durable. It's Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. Make sure you let them know that you heard about it right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. For Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.